The Chicago Cubs dropped their third game in a row. Listen, the Chicago Cubs in September have not jived since 2018. We got to talk about it. We got to ask a couple of questions. First, has the league figured out Shota Imanaga and his pitching? If so, what does Shota need to do to improve? Secondly, are the are the Cubs headed towards another September collapse? Listen, that would be catastrophic at to say at least. And last but not least, we get news on Jameson Taillon and his return. We got to talk about all of it and then some right after this. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central. This is your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. I'm your host, Mike Jones. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey, listen, if you love the Chicago Cubs and you love this channel, please go ahead and leave a comment. Also, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, for those of you that are watching on Apple or Spotify, please go ahead and leave a 5-star review, as well as leave any comments on how you believe the show is doing, or comment on the topics that we're talking about today. So let's get down to business. First and foremost, the Chicago Cubs dropped their third game in a row. Lost 2 to the Nationals after beating them up Friday, getting their 81st win, and now they are 81-63 after dropping another game to the Atlanta Braves. What do we know about the Atlanta Braves, especially when the Chicago Cubs go to Truist Park? It's never pretty. It's never pretty. The Chicago Cubs are lucky to get one in Atlanta. I'm just going to speak plainly and honestly with you. It's never pretty whenever the Cubs play them. It just always seems like it's a hardship. Runs are hard to come by. Or even if runs do come by, it's also us giving up a bunch of runs because our pitching isn't crisp. So literally, that's been kind of the story with the Chicago Cubs and the Atlanta Braves. And this year, the Braves aren't even good. They're injured. They don't have a lot of great pieces. And you look at this and you say, okay, well, you know what I'm saying? Guys have been playing terrible this year. So the Chicago Cubs should go ahead and, get these guys. At least that's what we thought when we got them in Chicago last week. And we said to ourselves, okay, the Chicago Cubs have an opportunity here to really do something positive for themselves and help their record, right? Wrong. The Chicago Cubs do go ahead and lose this first game. The Chicago Cubs are actually favored to win this game. Because a lot, and you have to believe a lot of that is because Shota Imanaga was pitching on the mound, right? But if you really look at the trend of Shota Imanaga and you look at how he's pitched lately, Shota Imanaga has not been that same dominant pitcher that we saw last year. Shota Imanaga actually has struggled mightily this season when you look at it for the Chicago Cubs. Very few games have been the breeze through games, the games where it's just like, oh, Shota has total command of this game. He's got all of his stuff working. You've seen a lot more of the home run ball this year. You've seen Shota Imanaga get beat up a lot more this season. And a lot of people more so giving barrages on his home runs. Now, remember this, Shota Imanaga originally, just like 3 weeks ago, we were talking about Shota Imanaga, and we were talking about the percentage that the Chicago Cubs win games and Shota Imanaga pitches. Since then, Shota Imanaga has lost every single start since that time. He is now 9-7 on the season. And it leads to beg to the question, has the league figured out how to hit Shota Imanaga? I mean, it certainly appears so from everything that we've seen. Shota Imanaga has not looked as dominant since July. Now, obviously, some of this is due to run support, but then a lot of it is due to him giving up runs. I mean, like I said, he got the first quick 2 outs at the beginning of this game against the Braves. And then literally after that, Shota Imanaga immediately proceeded to give up 3 runs. Now, granted, he still did get his quality start because he held them the rest of the time he was in the game, with Savali only giving up a home run against Matt Olson later on after he took over. But still, you look at this and you say to yourself, teams are starting to figure out Shota Imanaga, or have figured out Shota Imanaga. There's enough tape on him now where he has to figure something else out, because if they aren't biting for the splitter, Shota Imanaga doesn't have a lot to offer. Like I said, he leaves his slider up, And and like I said, and sometimes he'll throw pitches right at the heart of the plate. And when you do that, a lot of those times those pitches are gone. So he does like that high fastball. And like I said, if you're able to catch up with that high fastball, good luck to you. But Shota Imanaga has to figure some things out. And I fear pitching him in the postseason and him getting rocked, what that would do to his confidence. Also showed us, but he's also an older guy. So I'm just talking out loud with you guys. And please feel free, comment your thoughts on what I'm saying in the comment section. This is our hot topic of today. The Chicago Cubs lose again to the Atlanta Braves 4-1. But we're talking, did Shota Imanaga literally, has the league figured Shota out? He has not just not looked crisp. Even in the games where he's been able to keep the score relatively close, it just looks like he's laboring out there. He has not looked his confident self. He has not looked as great as he did a year ago. Which, like I said, again, he still has a winning record in games pitched for the Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs have a winning record in games that he's pitched. But you look at this and you say to yourself, something is going on with Shota, and they have to tweak some things. Tommy Hotovy is going to have to get with Shota this winter, and they got to figure some things out. They got to figure out what's going on with his pitches. I don't know if he'll pitch in the World Baseball Classic this year or not, or if he'll choose to opt out of doing that. But Shota has to put some work in on his pitching and get his pitches back crisp. Something is missing. Something is wrong. It's not even an uptick or downtick in velocity. It's just I don't know if it's something with the pitches, the way the teams are being able to recognize what he's getting ready to throw out of the glove. Something is wrong with Shota Imanaga and the way that he's pitching, because it just has not looked crisp, and teams have figured it out. They know what's coming, and they're scoring runs off of him. They're scoring runs off of him. Again, like I said, the Chicago Cubs do lose this game 1-4. Again, I mean, I've talked ad nauseum about the amount of not being able to have run support, and you have somebody like a Bryce Elder come into the game and pitch a Cy Young type performance against the Chicago Cubs team, but you are missing, of course, your main hitters. You're missing Kyle Tucker, more importantly, in this game. So, like I said, you had Michael Busch go 1 for 4. Ian Happ went 0 for 3. Surprise, surprise. Seiya Suzuki went 1 for 4. Pete Armstrong went 0 for 4. Nico Horner went 1 for 4. Willie Castro went 1 for 4. Dansby Swanson went 1 for 3. Matt Shaw went 0 for 2. And Reese McGuire went 0 for 3 in this game. So, again, like I said, it's not going to be a tough series here at Truist Park. That's just facts. That's just the facts of life. It's not going to be easy. And then you got to go back home and you got to play Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay isn't no slouch. They aren't slouches. So Chicago Cubs do not have an easy schedule ahead of them, which will bring us to our next topic right after these messages, where we ask, are the Chicago Cubs headed towards another September collapse? We'll talk about that right after these messages. I have been talking ad nauseum, and I still will continue to talk about the product, the brand that has changed my life and can change yours too. What's that product? It's Dubby. It's an all-natural energy supplement that you can take on the daily to help you get through those urges, those moments when you want to nap, then when you hit the cliff, or if you had a long night the night before and need to get through another crazy day of the hustle and bustle, the 9 to 5, whatever you got going on, Dubby is your energy drink. That's right. Not to mention, when you buy a container of Dubby, it actually equals out to almost $1 per drink. You can mix it in with whatever you want, whether that be a juice, whether that be a water, whether that be some type of other energy flavored drink, whatever you want, you can mix Dubby with it and it will do the trick for you. Guys, I don't understand what you're waiting on. Dubby takes care of everything for you. All you have to do is go on to the Dubby website and place your order. And at this time, when you do that, all you have to do is put in Cubs Central Pod 2024. That's right, Cubs Central Pod 2024. And you get 10% off on your Dubby order. That's right. Hey, listen, guys, I'm telling you right now, Jitterless Energy. They have all different types of different flavors for you. Dubby has what you need. Be better with Dubby. Chicago has the Chicago Cubs have suffered many a meltdown in the month of September since 2018. Like I said, it's been kind of ever present with them, even when the team was good. It's actually what ended up having this team trade off the assets such as Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, and Javi Baez. And what was a lot of that? What was the problem with a lot of that? Run support. Run support and not being able to score runs and and striking out and doing things like that have cost the Chicago Cubs so much, so much. And it's unfortunate, but the Chicago Cubs just have not again been able to produce enough runs. Now, again, you'll go back and you'll talk about, okay, Kyle Tucker and his injuries and trying to play through injuries. You'll go back and you'll look at PCA and you'll say, well, I really don't know what the hell was wrong with PCA, but somehow he just isn't looking like himself right now. And then, of course, you will go and you will look at things such as, you know, Dansby Swanson heating up, cooling off, Michael Busch kind of being wishy-washy. And then, of course, you will go and you will look at the Chicago Cubs just did not do enough in the offseason or it at the trade deadline to add pieces that you needed. I mean, that's just point blank what it is. I mean, like I said, the Chicago Cubs have went on the waiver wire. They've grabbed, you know, Willie Castro through trade. They've grabbed Carlos Santana, you know, and claimed him and got signed him to a contract once he was released from the Guardians. They've done different things like that, but it just has not been enough. It is not equaled or amounted to enough for the Chicago Cubs to be successful. Um, it's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate because you need hits, you need home runs, you need guys that can just flat out hit. Now, the problem is you're going to run into a market that isn't really full of hitters. I mean, the Phillies have already told everybody, let everybody know there is no dollar amount that they are not willing to offer Kyle Schwarber to stay in their clubhouse, to be the leader of their clubhouse, and to stay a Philadelphia Philly. They literally want him to retire a Philly. They understand the importance of having Kyle Schwarber in their dugout and in their clubhouse. So they are unwilling to let him go. And like I said, for us, we desperately need a player like Kyle Schwarber. We need a hard-hitting DH, like I said, that can take over the game and can handle business for the Chicago Cubs. You don't have anybody like that. Kyle Tucker, we thought was going to be that, and it looked like he was going to be that. PCA, it looked like he was going to be that, but it just has not materialized for these guys. And so, once we get closer to the postseason, especially after postseason is done, once the Chicago Cubs are eliminated or win the World Series, whichever happens first, we will do player profiles and player reviews, and we will have to look at the splits and the numbers on PCA and talk about just what the hell happened with him and why this fall off happened so hard. But you, like I said, and you know, the Chicago Cubs just need more runs scored, and because they aren't able to get these runs, and because it seems like they've rolled out the month of July and August on pretty much pitching alone, their pitchers are starting to get tired. So all these things very well could bode to a September collapse for the Chicago Cubs. Now, I am not hoping that this happens. I'm not professing or prophesying that this is going to happen. I'm just telling you that these trends that you're seeing aren't something that's going to lend to seeing the Chicago Cubs playing October baseball or playing November baseball as we once thought, you know, back in June, that the Chicago Cubs were World Series bound or at least going to have be able to vie for it. So, I mean, you look at this and you look at what this team is doing right now. You have to say to yourself, I mean, it'll be great to get a taste of postseason for players like PCA, players like Matt Shaw, players like Cade Horton, and be able to taste what that feels like. But the Chicago Cubs have some serious work to do this winter. Some serious work to do. I don't know that I'm choosing Shota Imanaga to be my one or two um in the rotation. I'm looking more at Shota as a 3 or 4 moving forward. He's kind of dropped down on my list. I'm looking at, you know, trying to figure out how we can get us an ace starter this summer. and I'm looking at how the Chicago Cubs can go about, keeping guys healthy. We've got to figure out how to keep guys healthy. We lost Cody Bellinger a year ago due to health issues, and now we lose Kyle Tucker twice in the same season due to health issues. Freak injuries, call it what you may. But like I said, it's not conducive for us to win. We need players that play that play all season. It's cool to rest them some games, but we to sit out some games to rest. But majority of the season, we can't have our main guys out. We just can't have it. Speaking of injuries, our final topic of today, Craig Counsell did announce that Jameson Taillon will be on the bump against the Braves on Wednesday. That Wednesday is a 6:15 start time. Jameson Taillon will make his return. Tomorrow, we will see Cade Horton, who is 9-4, trying to make a bid for Rookie of the Year. Cade Horton will be on the bump. We'll see what he has in store for the Chicago Cubs, see if he can guide this team to at least nab one victory, because it's going to be hard as hell to get a victory Wednesday against Chris Sale. We're just going to put that out there. It'll be Spencer Strider going for the Braves, who has a 4.97 ERA against Cade Horton. So we'll just have to see what happens. But like I said, I appreciate each and every last one of you guys for tuning into this episode. Please go ahead, comment below your thoughts. Let me know what you're thinking. Until next time, go Cubs, go. Peace.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.